Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Like you're a shadow, always standing behind someone else's spotlight? That's my story. I'm Alex Thompson, 24 years old, raised in Austin, Texas, in a house filled with sunshine that never seemed to reach me. My older brother Jake was the golden child, a football star, a straight A student, and the one who always made my parents beam with pride. Me? I was just the other kid, the one they barely noticed. I loved painting. Ever since I was little, I dreamed of creating art that told my story. Vibrant Texas prairies, star-filled skies, dreams that stretch beyond the horizon. But every time I showed my paintings to my mom, she'd say, "Alex, focus on school. Art won't pay the bills." Meanwhile, Jake got an expensive football kit just because he wanted to try it out. When I asked for help to attend art school, my parents shut me down. "We don't have money for impractical things." But they just bought Jake a brand new Mustang. The breaking point came when I was 18. I got accepted into a prestigious art academy in California, but my parents said, "Jake's studying to be an engineer. That's the future of this family." My heart shattered. I decided if they don't believe in me, I'll make them regret it. This isn't just a story about revenge, it's about how I found my own light. Are you ready to hear it? Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's dive into this journey together. I grew up in a suburban house in Austin, where big windows let golden sunlight pour in. But that light always seemed reserved for Jake. My brother, 3 years older, was the pride of our family. Jake was tall, blond, with a smile that melted hearts. He dominated the football field, aced every test, and my parents called him their legacy. My dad, a no-nonsense construction engineer, would slap Jake's shoulder and say, "Son, you're gonna do big things." My mom, an elementary school teacher, kept a scrapbook bursting with Jake's awards. Football medals, honor roll certificates, you name it. I didn't resent Jake. I loved him. We used to build blanket forts in the living room, chase fireflies at dusk, and laugh until our sides hurt. But I hated how my parents made me feel like I didn't exist. When I was 10, I fell in love with painting. I'd sketch sprawling Texas prairies, spaceships soaring through starry skies, dreams I was too shy to share. I remember showing Mom my first big painting, a spaceship gleaming under a cosmic glow. I'd spent hours perfecting every detail, from the shimmering hull to the twinkling stars. She barely glanced at it, gave a faint smile, and said, "Nice, Alex, but you should study math like Jake." That's what matters. Meanwhile, my parents took Jake to high school football games, bought him a shiny new kit when he said he wanted to try out for the team. I didn't ask for much, just a better set of paints to replace my worn-out crayons. But every time I brought it up, they'd sigh. "Alex, we don't have money for useless stuff like that." Useless? My paintings were how I told the world I was here, but to them, they were just kid stuff. In high school, the favoritism got worse. Jake got accepted to UT Austin, a top-tier school. My parents didn't hesitate to cover his tuition, dorm fees, and even bought him a red Mustang so he could get around easier. I still remember the day Jake drove home in that car, grinning ear to ear, while Mom and Dad stood on the porch clapping like he'd won the Super Bowl. I was on the front steps, clutching a new sketch, but no one noticed. When I was 17, I started working part-time at a local coffee shop, the Bean Barn, to save up for my dream. I'd stand behind the counter, steaming lattes and wiping tables, daydreaming about art school. One evening, I came home with an acceptance letter from the California Art Academy, one of the best schools for design. I'd worked my butt off, earned good grades, and poured my heart into an essay that made me cry rereading it. I thought my parents would be proud. I prepared a presentation, bringing my three best paintings: a Texas prairie at sunset, a starry night sky, and a girl standing in shadows with light breaking through. I sat down with my parents in the living room, my heart pounding. I got into the California Art Academy, I said, trying to sound calm. I just need some help with tuition. I've saved half of it from my job at the coffee shop. Dad looked at me, shook his head. Alex, you need a real job. Art isn't a future. Jake's studying to be an engineer. That's what this family needs. Mom nodded, adding, Don't let us down, Alex. We don't have money for pipe dreams. I was stunned. No money? They just dropped thousands on Jake's car. I stared at my paintings on the table, feeling like they were being ripped apart. I stood up, voice shaking. I'll do it myself. I stormed out, tears streaming down my face. That night, I overheard Mom on the phone with Jake, promising to cover his new apartment rent in Austin. Jake's gonna do big things, she said. I lay in bed, clutching a crayon, whispering to myself, Just wait, Mom. I'll show the world who I am. When I was 19, Jake graduated from UT Austin with an engineering degree. My parents threw a massive party in our backyard, inviting the whole neighborhood. They hung a huge banner. Congrats, Jake, our family's pride. I was invited, but only as a guest. No one asked about my life, my art, or the sketches I'd started posting on Instagram, which were slowly getting a few hundred likes. At the party, Mom bragged to the neighbors. Jake landed a job at a big tech firm. He's gonna change the world. I stood in the corner, gripping my glass of orange juice, feeling like I didn't belong. That was the moment I made up my mind. I wouldn't argue or scream. I'd prove them wrong by living brighter than they could ever imagine. I'd make them regret it, not by hurting them, but by showing them how strong I could be. I didn't have the money to go to California, but I wasn't giving up. I enrolled in a community college in Austin, majoring in graphic design to stay close to my passion for art. By day, I sat in classrooms, scribbling notes on Photoshop and Illustrator. By night, I worked as a server at the bean barn, brewing coffee, wiping tables, and forcing smiles even when I wanted to cry. I saved every penny to buy a Wacom tablet, which I called my secret weapon. Every night after my shift, I'd drag myself to my tiny studio apartment on the outskirts of Austin, a cheap place that always smelled faintly of old coffee. Under the glow of a desk lamp, I'd paint until 2 a.m., creating artwork about my dreams. I posted them on Instagram with the hashtag #AlexArt, even though only a handful of friends liked them at first. I didn't care. Every brushstroke was a step forward, a way to tell the world, I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. Meanwhile, Jake was still the family's shining star. He moved into a fancy apartment in downtown Austin, working for a big tech company. My parents called him constantly, gushing about his job, bragging to neighbors about their engineer son. I was rarely mentioned. Once, I called Mom to tell her about a painting I'd finished, but she cut me off. Alex, I'm busy. Jake just got a promotion. I hung up, feeling like I'd been slapped, but instead of letting the pain consume me, I turned it into fuel. I started learning more about digital design, watching hundreds of YouTube tutorials on color theory and 3D effects. I joined artist groups on Reddit, where people shared tips and cheered each other on. One night, while scrolling through Instagram, I saw an ad for a national art competition hosted by Pixel Vibe, a major tech company. The prize? A full scholarship to a design program at the New York Art Institute and a chance to showcase your work at an international exhibition. I knew this was my shot. I spent 3 months creating a collection called Shadows and Light. Each painting was a piece of my story. The first showed a girl in darkness, her eyes sad, with her family's silhouettes in the distance. The second depicted her painting on a massive canvas, light sparking from her brushstrokes. The final piece was her stepping out of the shadows, standing under a starry sky, light radiating from her face. I poured my heart into every stroke, each color a tear, a dream, a hope. Preparing for the competition was grueling. I slept less, sometimes only 4 hours a night. I picked up extra shifts at the bean barn, saving for new design software. There were days I felt exhausted, wondering if I was on the right path. But every time I looked at my paintings, I heard Mom's voice. Art won't pay the bills. And I'd tell myself, I'll prove you wrong. One evening, while washing mugs in the coffee shop's kitchen, my phone buzzed. An email from Pixel Vibe. Congratulations, Alex Thompson. Your collection has made the top 10. I screamed, knocking over a tray of mugs. My boss, Tony, laughed. Kid, if you keep breaking stuff, I'm docking your pay. But he was the first to congratulate me. I flew to New York for the exhibition, my first time leaving Texas, my first time feeling like I was living for myself. Standing in a sleek Manhattan gallery, I felt tiny among talented artists and critics in fancy glasses. My work was displayed on a massive wall, lights highlighting every brushstroke. I stood there, in a simple black dress I'd saved a month's wages to buy, my heart racing. When the organizers took the stage, I could barely breathe. They announced the winners, and then this year's champion is Alex Thompson with her collection Shadows and Light. The room erupted in applause. I walked to the stage, tears streaming down my face, not from sadness, but from finally being seen. I received the scholarship and a design contract with Pixel Vibe, a game changer for my career. But I wanted my family to see it too. I didn't call or brag. Instead, I organized a solo exhibition at a prestigious Austin gallery, funded by Pixel Vibe. I sent invitations to my parents and Jake with a simple note. Come to Alex's exhibition, August 15th. I didn't mention the award or contract. I wanted them to walk in and see me, not Jake's shadow, but Alex, shining on her own. For a bit of fun, I set a little trap for Jake. Before the exhibition, I posted a fake painting on Instagram, a rough draft, with the caption, "Tried my best, but it's probably not good enough." I knew Jake occasionally checked my page. I wanted him to think I was still struggling, only to be blown away by my real success at the exhibition. The night of the Austin exhibition was the moment I'd been waiting for. The gallery glowed with light, my paintings lining the walls, each one telling a piece of my story. Guests, art critics, friends, Instagram followers marveled at the work. I wore a bold red dress, a color that screamed, "I'm no longer in the shadows." My parents and Jake arrived late, as usual. I saw them through the glass doors, Mom in her familiar green dress, Dad with a skeptical frown, and Jake with an awkward smile, probably thrown off by my fake Instagram post. They stepped inside, clearly stunned by the crowd and the huge sign, Alex Thompson, Shadows and Light. I took a deep breath, walked to the stage, and grabbed the microphone. "Hey, everyone," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "Thank you for being here tonight. These paintings aren't just art. They're my story about growing up in darkness, feeling unloved, unseen. But they're also about finding light, about believing in yourself when no one else does." I looked at my parents. Mom bowed her head, clutching a tissue. Dad stood frozen, his eyes flickering. Jake stared at me, not with his usual confident grin, but with awe. I went on. "The first painting is about a girl in shadows, forgotten by her family. The second is about the late nights she painted, turning pain into power. And the last, it's about the moment she steps into the light." I played a short video I'd prepared. It started with me working late at the Bean Barn, tears in my apartment, brushstrokes on my tablet. Then it shifted to New York, where I stood on stage accepting the Pixel Vibe Award. The room roared with applause, the sound echoing off the walls. I watched my family. Mom was sobbing, Dad's head was down, and Jake clapped, his eyes misty. After my speech, I stepped off the stage. People swarmed me, praising my work, but I only cared about talking to my family. My parents pulled me to a quiet corner, away from the lights. Mom grabbed my hand, her voice shaking. "Alex, we had no idea you'd done all this. We thought Jake needed us more because he was under so much pressure. We were wrong." Dad, who rarely apologized, looked me in the eye. "We wanted you to be secure, not because we didn't believe in you, but because we were scared you'd fail in a tough field. But we were wrong. You've done something we never could have imagined." I was floored. For years, I thought they loved Jake more, but they were just trying to protect me in the wrong way. Jake stepped forward, holding an old framed painting, the spaceship I drew at 10. "I kept this," he said, voice breaking. "I checked your Instagram and that fake post. I thought you were struggling. But you're a star, Alex." I laughed, tears rolling down my cheeks. Part of me wanted to yell about the years I'd been ignored, but another part felt free. I realized revenge wasn't about hurting them. It was about showing them how strong I am. I hugged Mom, saying, "I forgive you, but from now on, I'm living for me." I looked at Jake, smiling. "Thanks for keeping that painting, big bro." Today, I'm a recognized artist, working with major brands like Pixel Vibe and Nike. My paintings hang in galleries across the U.S., and my Instagram now has over 100,000 followers. My parents have changed. They call me regularly, asking about my projects, and even hung one of my paintings in their living room. Jake, my big brother, is now one of my biggest fans. He keeps that old spaceship painting in his office and sometimes texts me, "Sis, you're a freaking star." But the biggest lesson I've learned isn't about awards or recognition. It's that the best revenge isn't hurting others. It's living boldly, being true to yourself. I turn my pain into power, my darkness into light. And if I can do it, so can you. If you've ever been overlooked by your family, told you're not good enough, remember this: you have the power to rewrite your story. No one can dim your light unless you let them. So stand up, chase your dreams, and shine like you were born to. Thank you for listening to my story. If you loved it, smash that like button and subscribe for more journeys like this. Drop a comment below. How have you overcome family drama? What's your story? I can't wait to hear it. And don't forget to hit that bell icon so you never miss a video. Let's shine together.